thank you very much, our esteemed panelists, for joining us. For some of them, it was actually on a very, very short notice. And let's put our hands together for them. They are leaders, they are privileged. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, Matthew. Thank you for joining us, Sheikh. Thank you for joining us, Janice and Buyo. So, the topic for the panel discussion is venture capital, angel investment, readiness for entrepreneurs, SMMEs, and startups. So this is how I would want us to start with the conversation. Okay, let's start with what? What is venture capital? Or capitalism? And who is a venture capitalist? Then we'll take the same for angel investor so that we have understanding. Because one of the things that we as 67 CEOs appreciate the most, apart from just organizing events, is education. Education is key for 67 CEOs. So we would like the audience to be educated on the differences between a venture capitalist or venture capitalism and angel investor or angel investment. Let's start with Matthew. Maybe you want to do a quick introduction of yourself so that the audience know you also.
Okay, so my name is Matthew. I work for a company called Siyakha Capital Advisors. We are based in Rosebank. We advise a whole number of companies, all the way from startup all the way to South African corporates in the areas of corporate finance, as well as issues pertaining to venture capital itself. We have a number of clients who are very much at the early stages of their growth. And we believe in partnering with them on their journey towards building a sustainable business going forward.
And so to the question, what is venture capitalism or venture capital?
Okay, so when you start off your business, right, you're going to find that you're going to go through various phases of growth. And at each different stage in the evolution of your business, you require a different type of investor who will partner with you on that journey. And when you start off, you basically are reliant on angel investors, right? So those are the guys who are right up front. Generally, they're called the 3 Fs. Who knows the 3 Fs, right? It's friends, family, and fools, right? So those are the 3 Fs. These are the guys who take their life savings and put it into your business and help you grow from an idea into the very early stages of your business. Once you have got to a point beyond that, and it's usually where you have something like a proof of concept, you've got an idea, you've shown us that you have a product which is viable, you have a market which can sustain the product, then you start looking for a different type of investor. The reason is because invariably the angel investors either A, have hit the limits of what they can fund, or B, they have hit the limits of the amount of risk that they're willing to assume. So you move to another stage, and those are the venture capitalists. Generally speaking, venture capital implies a high degree of risk, right? So because it is risk capital, venture capitalists, such as myself, are really looking for extraordinary returns on our investment. And that's something that's very, very important to remember. The failure rate in early stage companies is very, very high. That shouldn't dissuade you from starting companies, right? If you fail, you simply start again and you keep on going until you find the formula that works. It's absolutely crucial. To look for a venture capital company, they are looking for extraordinary returns. From my own point of view, when I look at business plans very early in their stages of development, I know that a large number of those businesses will fail. And because they fail, I need the 1 or 2 that are going to survive to produce extraordinary returns. So venture capital is early stage funding, it's high risk, it's taking the business to its very early stage growth curve.
Okay, thank you very much, Matthew. Maybe Sheikh, you want to introduce yourself and also take on what angel investor or investment is and venture capital.
All right. My name is Sheikh Motsilili. I think I would like to think I'm a serial entrepreneur myself, but today I wear a hat of a particular entity called Alumni Energy Investments, which is a venture capital company and approved under Section 12J of the Income Tax Act. I'm not going to go in depth on what that means, but basically the South African government / taxman has sort of created a section in the Income Tax Act that seeks to promote investment into venture capital from the private sector. And as Martin has quite eloquently said, venture capitalism is a very important space, number one, for entrepreneurship, because it seeks to give money to high-risk businesses. However, it's a very challenging space as well, because you have a responsibility to investors, and this is what I want to touch on a little bit, because you raise capital from investors to build a pot,
yes,
and then you have to use that money to invest in these high-risk entities. But the intent, your mandate and responsibility is to make returns for your investors. So as you mentioned, Martin, you have to be able to at least find that 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5 that do succeed. I think the stats are like 4 out of 5 of startups fail in the first 2 years. So there's a high failure rate. But we need to be able to almost be soothsayers and be able to predict that a particular company has good potential and will be able to succeed. But there's ways that you sort of skills that you gain over time as well, and there's ways in which you vet and actually select these type of companies. And I think today is all about how do startups, SMMEs, prepare themselves to be selected, as it were, by venture capitalists.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for Sheikh. Yes, Janice, please.
I'm Janice, and I'm portfolio head of a couple of funds that Age Growth manage, which are early or sort of late early stage funds, mainly under the Rumela umbrella, which is funding that's been raised in conjunction with the Jobs Fund and First Grant for SME development. So we're very well versed in this area. I think we've got some great explanations of what VC is. There's just a couple of things that I'd like to add that might be relevant, is that in that looking for exceptional growth at an early stage, there are some key factors that a venture capital fund will look for, and the main things are the market, the team, and the value proposition that the product or service is actually offering. And I think just to reiterate that when you come to a venture capital, some of these things need to be well understood in order to be able to attract third-party money into the business. So a lot of people think that venture capital is real startup funding, but invariably it's not. There does need to be some validation, some traction, market adoption in the space. So it's always important that the entrepreneurs are matched the right funder with the right stage of their business in order to ensure the highest likelihood of success, as we know that time is one of the key critical components of being an entrepreneur. So you definitely don't want to waste your time speaking to the wrong people at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And the distinction with an angel investor is they are individuals with their own private money. So therefore their decision-making process and their ability to absorb risk is quite different from somebody who's managing someone else's money. And then just one other thing I'd like to mention is that it also goes that a venture capital company or firm obviously is given funding, which is very important, invariably in the form of equity at this stage, but it's equally very important that they bring something else, and that in terms of advisory support, access to market, skills development, And so there again, it's very important that to select the correct venture capital that either has experience in the space or that can actually facilitate that real high growth and to try and improve those odds, obviously for the SME, but also for the investment.
Okay. Thank you very much, Janice. Let's put hands together for Janice.
Good morning. My name is Boyoto File. I'm the founder of IntBank, the ENT standing for entrepreneur, and the BAC, it's a play on bank. We founded the group looking at how we could actually support entrepreneurs, but particularly entrepreneurs in the township space, in the informal economy, so-called informal economy, and emerging market. What we do is a little bit different to my esteemed colleagues here. Like I said, we focus on the township, inclusive market. So if you've got a business or an idea or a venture and it's targeting, the general population or the Sandton market, we're not interested. If you come to us and you say, listen, there's this particular problem that we're solving in the township particularly, for us it becomes interesting because there's a lot of problems that we need to solve there. I happen to also be the chairperson of the largest entrepreneurial network in the township called Ekasi Entrepreneurship Movement. We're based in every township, so that's why we're the largest. So effectively for me, I think my colleagues have spoken about angel and venture capital. For me, dealing in the township and informal economy and with micro-entrepreneurs, black entrepreneurs, African entrepreneurs particularly, for us all these terms are great, but you're not going to get funded. It's very difficult. It has to be explained to you. You have to, some of you catch 3 taxis just to come to Sandton and explain it. They ask you for a business plan, all these things you don't know, correct? So for us, we've created platforms or we've partnered with companies, for instance, the People's Fund, who look at asset-based crowdfunding, because collateral is a problem. We've looked at stokvel money, consolidating that money. We all understand stokvels, right? You come from that environment. That's money that our parents, our mothers, our grandparents, and we've used that to fund up to 12 businesses using stokvel money. So for me, I'm just going off on a bit of a tangent. We look at alternative finance. Alternative finance that's going to deal with issues that are pertaining to us as black people.
Let's put our hands together for Dannatt. If I may pick it from where you start to say that your target market as IntBank is township entrepreneurs. What is it that you look for in a township entrepreneur before you give them funding?
Good question. So traditionally, township entrepreneurs tend to be very informal, extremely. The last stats were about 80% of township entrepreneurs are informal. Everybody knows that. I mean, it was built traditionally, we all know, it was built on the 3 T's. Township, taverns, taxis, and tuck shops. Right? So when you talk about the township, most people go, there are no real businesses there. That's the argument. It's the same argument when you go to corporates and enterprise development funds, and they say there are no black businesses that we can fund, particularly in the township. I correct them and I say, rather say there aren't quality black SMEs that fit my criteria, and let's find those. So for us, we look at finding those particular entrepreneurs who've taken the journey to, one, be formal businesses. So you can't operate like a spaza shop. Even if you're creating an app, you've taken the view that this is a serious business. If I'm building, for instance, one gentleman who's built an app called Gasi Biz app. Literally, for him was, how do I find or how do I create a yellow pages of township businesses? And for me as a ESD manager or as we're looking for a hair salon, I can go into that app and find it quite easily. So he was creating a solution for the township market because you can't find businesses. There's no directory. And again, data, he's collecting a lot of data. So for us, those become interesting businesses. But also the individual and what problem is trying to solve. So for us, it's not hi, I'm a black business, I am BEE. That doesn't matter to me. That thing it's out. Because all of us, if we get into a room and that's our selling point, that's not value, you're not building value.
True.
You're not solving a problem.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, are they solving a problem, a real identifiable problem in the township economy? Have they validated it? Have they gone out and sold that first product? For me, if you haven't even made your first rand, if you don't make your first 10 rand, you're not in business.
So those are kind of quality
Correct.
or characteristics that you're looking for in an entrepreneur that is operating in the township.
In the township. And also the willingness to learn.
Short.
Key.
How do you find them? Do they come to you or you go to them?
It's a mixture of both.
Okay.
So fortunately through the network, there are such pitching sessions in the township. They don't have such nice venues, unfortunately, something that we're working on. But some come to us, some we find through the grapevine. You know, you hear sporadic sort of news about this exciting business in Soweto or in Tembisa, for instance. People don't know one of the best craft brewers, Soweto Gold, is in the township.
Are you an investor?
I'm going to be. We're looking at that business. Heineken, after 4 years, bought into that business. Craft brewer. Mind you, funny enough, just quickly as I go on a tangent, Sowetans and the township market is not where they sell that beer. It's in the centers. Certain environments, the urban environments, purely because in their exercise they found that if I am Voyo and I'm sitting at some news cafe in the township, I can't impress my girlfriend with a craft beer, correct? She's not gonna date me. She's not gonna look at me. she wants the champagnes and the whiskeys, etc. But in the Sandton market, you know, the millennials want that craft beer. You know, in export markets, there's a pull towards craft beer. So the brand speaks to the hustle of Soweto. It's a great brand, but interesting enough, they're not selling in township markets. So
thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for Julio. We'll go another round, then I'll open the floor to questions. Matthew, you mentioned something during your when you were doing the introduction and explaining the VCs and the angel investor and all of that, and you mentioned the failure rate, the failure rate of SMMEs, and Sheikh's also alluded to that. But I would like you to tell us, with your experience with investors and entrepreneurs, are there investors in South Africa that are failure tolerant?
It's going to be the worst question I've had this morning.
I'm sorry.
Let me say this. Okay, I have worked all over the world. Okay, I've been fortunate enough to work all over the world. And the one thing I will say is, from my experience, is that when I've been in Australia, when I've worked in the UK, generally speaking, their tolerance for risk is a lot higher than South Africa. My historical experience has been that South Africans and South African funders have traditionally been very risk averse. And I think it is a big challenge for SMMEs, for startups who are trying to get going, right? However, I do start to see, what I have seen recently, is I've slowly started to see a shift away from being totally risk averse into venture capital companies and similar organizations who now realize that there is certainly a value in backing exciting projects that have got some scale, right? But there were some really critical comments that were being made earlier by Rio, Janice and Shakes, is you've got to be able to scale. It's absolutely important. And I know there are a lot of people here, clearly a lot of bright people, who have great ideas, right? But there are two critical questions they have to ask themselves. The one is, can you implement the project? Right? That is absolutely crucial. If you can't implement, and the comment I think came out earlier, you must surround yourself with people who can help you achieve your vision. It's absolutely crucial. And the second thing is, does it scale? Rio made an incredibly important point, right, is that you are not selling product. You're never selling product. What you're doing is you are identifying a need and you're providing a solution to the need. How can I help you? If I go into a corporate, I don't say I'm here to sell you I'm here to sell you hours. What I say is you have a problem, let me tell you how I'm going to solve your problem. It's absolutely crucial, right? If you can find the right people, if you can find the right people, surround yourself, you'll find it's that much easier, right, to find people who are willing to back you. The concept of having an A-class team, the very, very best people, is absolutely crucial. And in closing, what I'd like to say is Siyakha has a SMME development program, right? We have an incubator. If we think you've got a great idea, we provide incubator services. So we'll provide you with coaches, we'll provide you with people who allow you to actually develop your idea. We'll provide you with a desk, we'll provide you with a phone, we'll provide you with internet services. Mahala. Right?
Great.
It has to be the right idea. Okay. At the moment we develop a lot of SMMEs. And we're trying to get them to the point where they are able to stand on their own 2 feet, make great commercial decisions, and take their businesses to the next level. So,
That's awesome.
okay, so what I'll do is I'll actually leave my email address. If you guys think you've got a great idea, you're more than willing to help me. I'm willing to help me, I'm willing to help you. Okay, so what will happen is I'll have a look at your ideas, and if I think you've got a great idea, then I'll put you forward to the guy who runs our incubator program.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Let's move on to that, Matthew. Matthew, I just posted 2 questions to you as entrepreneurs, startups, and SMMEs. One of the questions is, can you implement your idea? That's a very personal question. You must be able to answer that question, whatever it is that idea is, and wherever it is that is from. Inspiration, dream, because we get ideas through different, So, the way you get ready for investors, answer the question, can I implement this idea? Okay, now, still on failure tolerance and high risk, you mentioned that the startups and entrepreneurs, they are high risk. And that could be the reason, one of the reasons why investors would know. So when it comes to entrepreneurs being ready for funding, knowing that I am an high risk, what are the things, either attitudes or attributes, whatever it is, that I as an entrepreneur must have ready in order to be funded, either by an individual who is an angel investor or the 12J, and you would have the opportunity to be able to emphasize on the 12J section kind of investment. Now, as an entrepreneur, what do I have to have ready?
Okay, thanks for that. Look, first and foremost, I just want to put a few facts forward about risk, first of all. I think a lot of people have a very funny relationship with risk, and they're taught to run away from anything with risk. But strangely enough, we also know that the higher the risk, the higher the return. So strange. But again, it does not mean you just put something into your money into something that's high risk. You have to have risk mitigation and. But I think that to really make a huge impact, you have to take high risks. And I think innovators are people like that. They're doing something that's never been done before, and everybody usually says, it won't work, but they still work through all of that. Now, we as a venture capital company have a specific mandate, and it's driven by the following. It's not a South African problem. I think the last stat that was released by the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor was that only 0.2% of all startups, like pre-revenue startups, receive funding, and most of them would have been in the Silicon Valley. So basically, no money goes to pre-revenue startups. So again, they mainly depend on friends, family, and fools to start up. But I mean, that's, in my opinion, is not sufficient. So what we've done is, first of all, because the government has created Section 12J, a particular percentage of your investment is already covered by the government. So you're not risking your full rand. It's linked to your tax rate. So let's assume the highest, if you are on the highest tax bracket as an individual and you invest a rand into a venture capital company, 45 cents is covered by the taxman. So you're only risking 55 cents, but you've got shares worth a rand, in the venture capital company. That allows us to be able to be a bit riskier, if I may put it that way, because you as an investor were able to explain that, listen, actually you're not even risking your full rand, you're risking much less than that. Therefore, the mandate of my venture capital company is to support pre-revenue startups in the energy sector. So we actually are doing something quite strange, if I may put it that way. It does happen, but most VCs don't go there. And it is again because the investors themselves are not open to that amount of risk. It needs to be something that's almost prototype proven and has been sold, as we have said. But the issue is that if you do it correctly, and then I like using the example of Apple. If you had gone and invested in Apple when they were pre-revenue and a startup and just an idea, the amount of returns you would have made when they were short it's amazing. Now we as a country have big problems. We've got unemployment over 8 million. We've got energy issues at the moment. We'll be struggling. I mean, I believe we're going to have rolling blackouts soon because of some of the issues. But the point is that the type of entities that can offer solutions need to receive funding at a quite early stage, and that is what we focus on. To answer your question, what we look out for, and I'll talk about a specific company which has had recent success that we funded quite early, called Africanopy, and it is in the telecoms innovation space. And the problem, again, it was a problem that it sought to solve. In South Africa, I think the last stats again could be slightly different. About 52% of citizens are connected to the internet, but 48 are not, and that is in the rural areas, the so-called underserviced or no-serviced areas. And the problem there is that current tech doesn't make sense in sparsely populated areas. It's just too expensive. You need a particular number of subscribers per square kilometer to justify the capex spend to actually build infrastructure in rural or sparsely populated areas. Okay. So they sought to find a solution and brought forward very innovative tech to be able to cover and have a commercially viable business in the rural areas and moving. I think the last numbers were the big telcos need about 150 subscribers per square kilometer for the business to make sense. Yes. And you won't get that in rural areas, which is why they won't go there. And on paper, when the business, and this is proper modeling, the business that African will put forward will break even with 5 subscribers per square kilometer. So from 150 to 5, so high impact. Obviously, we had to do a lot of due diligence of the tech proposed, and we started funding. On the 12th of September, they received the first ever commercial trial license in TV white spaces from ICASA, and it is the first of its kind on the globe. And we're so excited. But we've been supporting them way before that, if that makes sense. So now, and I think the impact that they're going to have is going to be tremendous, and they will eventually be a big player in covering the rest of not only South Africa, but Africa that is underserviced.
Wow. Yeah. So what is it that you identify in that entrepreneur or that team that made you invest earlier?
I think for me, look, each VC has its mandate. we focus on technology innovation, right? And although telecoms is not directly in energy, it's quite linked.
Sure.
I won't go into a linkage, it's important to be digressing. But what we really looked at the team. They had been although they came to us just last year, they had been working on this tech since 2014 with no funding at all, working on the idea and stuff. So the amount of effort that they put in and the research that they've done and the professional report that they gave to us, or presentation or proposal, gave us confidence, and we could verify that they've been dealing with some of the big, and there's only like a handful on the globe that operate in designing and developing kits for TV white space coverage. And we could verify with your Carlsons, with someone like Adaptron, that they've been in conversations with them and they've been engaging with them, and they were known. So they've done proper work, and I suppose that's R&D, if I may put it that way.
Yeah.
That's before you even prototype. And so if you can evidence that you've really done your proper R&D, and we obviously put in our own sort of telecoms experts to give us their opinion.
And what year did you get in?
Just last year.
Yeah.
They started their work 2014.
And you got in last year, so they've been getting ready 3 years.
But without any money, with hitting roadblocks from regulators, because the regulation, the only reason they are the first to get the trial license in TV space is because the CASA regulation was only changed earlier this year to allow for this license to be issued. They've been lobbying since 2014 to have the regulations changed. So I think the people behind the idea are also very important.
Very, very key.
Yeah. So I think I'm mentioning time, but when we met with them, we could see their passion, we could see their vision, and the big thing of solving. Remember, when you cover people in rural areas, they now are able to be part of the economy. They can communicate, they have access to information, they can surf the
They're
web.
now included.
It's inclusiveness, so it's solving a social problem, and that talked to us as well.
Thank you. Let's put our hands together for Chris. So, Janice, when you made your introduction, you mentioned something which linked to what how Shakes ended. Matching the team and having a team that can deliver, and obviously the market also identify a particular market. What is it that entrepreneurs in the room, or who are the kind of let's paint a possible partner that they should look for across industry, either it's technology or you're in the township or whatever product or service that you're trying to sell? What is a possible partner that you should look for when you have a particular idea, and if you have had experience of team, and obviously there are disappointments, also when you when you are taught your co-founder, will go 3 years or 5 years, and you just find out that, so maybe there's something you want to share with us there.
Absolutely. So we've been investing in SMEs for almost 10 years, and the original thesis that we had was that it was more that the first priority was the market size and the problem that you're solving, and the team was something that you could work with. And we've kind of over the years flipped that on its head. And definitely the team, particularly in this stage of business, is now right at the top of the tree that we look at. And I say team very specifically because we believe that no one individual can have the amount of complementary skill sets to really drive a business with so much to be done in the early stage. So we have this, which we picked up over the years, that a team needs a visionary, a hustler, and a hacker. Okay. And basically what we're saying is that it needs that person that has the strategic view of the type of problem and the positioning of the business in order to do it. Somebody that actually appreciates that not just the problem that they're solving, but the limitation that this product or service is actually taking out of the business to enable it to be a must-have rather than just a nice-to-have. So that's your sort of typical CEO type person. Then you need a hustler, and that's the person who can sell. Because ultimately, you need to create that revenue, and sometimes that means selling when you don't have you're still figuring it out, working it out, and to be able to show some form of market adoption and sales as early as possible will really hold the business in really good stead. So you need that person who's out there and can do that.
Yes, and who is the hacker?
And the hacker is the operational person. Depending on the type of business, in a tech business, it's the tech person. And we found that to try and outsource tech development in an early stage business just doesn't make economic sense, because people have to put in very long hours, heart and soul. So invariably in the tech businesses we've invested in, one of the co-founders has been the tech experts. But for other businesses may not be as technically orientated, but that operational person, detail orientated person who can really help with the execution of the idea, whatever that may be. And those sort of, very broadly speaking, those sort of themes need to be sort of well covered to have a balanced, complementary team to make it happen.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Let's put our hands for Jenny. I'll open the floor to questions. Will, Janice mentioned something about comprehensive skill set. And in the preamble here, if you read the program that you're given to in your hands, you'll see in the preamble, somewhere in the preamble, finance is not enough, idea is not enough, though they must be clear. Nevertheless, they need entrepreneurs, that is, they need a complex, and you now make it even easier, comprehensive skill set. And you now divide it into three: visionary, hustler, and hacker. When you go to township, in terms of skill set, what are you looking for in that entrepreneur? Because this is all about being ready for funders. What do you look for? What are the skill sets you look for? Either in an individual entrepreneur who is a one-man show, and there's nothing wrong with a one-man show, isn't it? Because that's where you typically start. So either in a one-man show or in a team, what are the comprehensive or complex skill sets that you look for?
So before even that, I look for entrepreneurs that have failed. I enjoy those entrepreneurs
that are what?
That have failed in business
that
before.
Have failed.
Yeah, because it tells me something that the
I'm sorry to do this to you. Raise up your hand if you have failed before in any of your business. Looks like 50%. Okay.
So for us, when you failed, it's almost you've done your own mini MBA. There's certain learnings that you cannot get at school because of the failure. You've gone through the gamut, you've gone through the ring of starting a business, learning what you did wrong, and also in that process you do what I call a self-diagnosis. A lot of folks. So the quickest thing when I ask an entrepreneur about their financials, and they say no, they start to waffle. I'll say, do you budget? For me, it's the quickest indicator. If you don't even budget in your own household or for yourself, how are you going to handle finances for your business?
Yeah.
So already I know you're not good at finance. But you can lie to me, but I know you need that skill set in your team. So there are little few tests like that to indicate what kind of entrepreneur, because ultimately, like it said, the idea is one thing, the passion is one thing, the determination is another thing, solving the problem is another thing, but you're backing the jockey. Are they going to be able to implement and execute?
Yes.
I mean, I heard there was a question earlier about NDAs. I don't sign those things. I think I last signed it 12 years ago. They're not worth the paper that they are put on. One, I don't steal ideas, and even if I did, am I going to be able to execute it with the passion, skill set, determination, etc. that the other person will do? So let's never be afraid of selling your ideas or sharing your ideas with VCs. Remember, you're going there, you're asking for something, you're asking for money. but you're saying, listen, I can't tell you who I'm going to supply, I can't tell you what contract, I can't really tell you what the idea is, so why must I put money? You're telling, you're not sharing anything with me.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but if you think your idea is new, go to YouTube.
We'll see.
Where is Mike?
It's not my thing. Many moons ago, somewhere, where it said, you know, in the past and even in school, you were almost taught to try and focus on your weaknesses and develop them. And I think that's rubbish. You need to focus on your strengths and develop those to as far as possible, and then you have to have people around you that actually can deal with your weak points. That's what I'm saying.
So, entrepreneurs, focus on your strengths. So let's, questions? Okay, let's start with Clayton.
Hi everyone, my name is Clayton McLean. I'm from Helios Energy Alliance. The question is open for the entire, for you guys. What is the minimum interest rate that you charge? And what periods do you guys look at financing entrepreneurs?
Mine is easy, I'll start. Because I'm legislated under Section 12J, I have to at least leave my investment for a minimum of 5 years, and I take an equity stake, so there's no interest rate. So I'm totally dependent on the success of the business for my returns.
Okay.
I'll just say very quickly that if you are at the very early stages of your business development, your business cannot afford to carry debt, right? Because you can't make the interest payments. That is why in the early stages, it's equity investment or it's a hybrid. Let's not go into that, but there are other instruments that are available which are non-debt based. If you start knocking on the bank at the bank's door, day one, looking for a loan to run your business, you're not going to be successful. So the best places to start are with the actual equity investors such as the 12J funds.
So yeah, I think we need to educate ourselves.
Equity funding is very simple. There's an amount of share capital within your business. So in exchange for the capital, cash that we're going to invest in your business, we're going to take some shares in your business. So we become shareholders in your business. Now that's also sometimes becomes quite complex. You know, people are not willing to give equity in that business. You know, and I've always had that argument. Do you have 100% of zero?
Yeah.
With an idea?
Yeah.
Or do you build? You know, I use the example of, we all know Discovery Bank, right?
Yeah.
So Adrian Gore, the CEO, founder, started. How much shareholding does he have in that business? Anybody know? Less than 10%. Less than 10%. He founded the business. His idea was funded by the First Rand Group. He's got less than 10%, but he's a billionaire. So don't be hung up about this thing about equity. But then the flip side, I'm going to just add quickly. Make sure you marry the right partner. Alright? Like it's a marriage, it's a relationship. Right? I think Sammy spoke about it, about partnerships, whether it's your team, staff, suppliers. Guys, it's a relationship. I don't care whether you're selling tomatoes, Tabasco sauce, Nando's, tech, it's relationships. So even if you're going to give equity, be aware that you're giving it to somebody who's going to add value. So as much as I might give you money, it's not about just the money. It's about, can I add value to your business? Can I help you scale? Because sometimes what we found is our social capital, so quickly explain that, that's my network. So I know so and so and so and so, you are selling, and use the tomatoes example, I know somebody at Pick and Pay. So I can open up that opportunity for you to sell your produce into that. That's worth money.
That's true.
Right? Social or capital.
Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for our next